Give them a shot to do what?
All right. Welcome back to the Protect Our Queens podcast. Whoever is watching live or if you're watching back, presented by the Give Us a Shot Network. Good to have you here. I'm here with my guy, Dwayne Marcus, who is sick, but still here and accounted for. How you feeling, buddy? You doing all right?
I got my ginger ale.
Ginger ale? You got your ginger ale, man? There you go. Got the good remedy.
Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah, Marcus is gonna ride it out with us sick tonight, but we got some stuff to get into and to talk about. The Steph and Sabrina 3-point shootout. We've got some Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese stuff. We'll see if any of these Caitlin Clark heroes that just love her so much out here on these internet streets want to pop up and join the discourse here on the show live, or if you're watching back to the show afterwards. And then we're going to talk about South Carolina a little bit later. They're still undefeated, still dominant, and kind of talk about them a little bit. BG, Brittney Griner, got her number retired. We got a few things to get into here on Protect Our Queens, including a very special segment, brand new segment that we're going to do this week, which we're excited about. So much to get to, much to be excited about. Marcus, let's get the show on the road.
Protect our queens.
No matter what it takes, we must protect our queen.
I mean, I just love playing the game. It's fun.
I'm reacting on what the defender does.
I hit them with a hezzy. After that, they quit.
Yeah, I think I've always just been able to get downhill, so I've sort of prided myself on that.
I know what I'm doing. Like, people can't tell me I'm not doing the right. Like, I've been taught the right way.
All right, what's up, good people? What is going on? Martin Sori's here with my guy, Dwayne Marcus. This is the Protect Our Queens podcast. If you don't like women's basketball, you should not be here. If you are not tapped in, do not speak to me about basketball, women's basketball, nothing. If you ain't tapped in to the women's game, do not come through here and act like you know what's going on. It's time to get busy and get active. We have some really, really important things, some exciting things to talk about tonight. Dwayne Marcus, what's going on, man? I know you're sick, but you look all right though. You don't look sick. You look okay.
Yeah, man. I mean, I probably sound a little stuffy, but I feel good. Feel good. I'm glad to be here, man. You get some ginger ale in your system and everything kind of.
Yeah, man. Some lemon. Get some lemon in you. Get some tea. There's some good sick remedies I know of out there, so
mom's actually making tea right now. Shout out to my mommy.
Come on, mom.
Love that. I'm ready to get into it, man. Let's have some fun.
Let's get into it, man. Let's get into it. Yeah, so let's start out with the Steph and Sabrina 3-point shootout during All-Star weekend. So I put out the video on our page, Protect Our Queens on Instagram. You can give us a follow, see more, see clips from the show and even more content from us. But I did put out the video, just kind of putting some feelers out, hoping that we could all just enjoy the contest and not see too much negativity and too much unnecessary discourse around what that was, which is just like everything in All-Star weekend. It's in good fun. But of course you're going to have the trolls come out who we love to address and troll ourselves. But I didn't get a chance to watch live. I was out in New York. I was at one of my live in concert movie shows. Yeah, Lord of the Rings this time. It was fantastic. The Two Towers, the second movie. So that was awesome. So I was busy Saturday night. I wasn't prioritizing All-Star at all. I was catching up on stuff on my phone next day. Yeah. So but I got a chance to watch. I watched the contest. I got to watch. I watched the game on Sunday, which I actually enjoyed more than most people. I know it's like a thing that it's not a great product, but I wasn't. It was okay to me. I don't know. We're not going to talk about that, but
Just because you're a basketball purist, so you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was far from pure basketball, that's for sure. But there were just elements of it that I did enjoy. I enjoyed seeing different guys do well. I liked seeing the East rise up and young guys getting up and down. And I did like things about the game. But anyway, I do want to talk about and get your thoughts on the Kenny Smith stuff, which is kind of what we're going to react to. I mean, we could talk about the Steph Sabrina dynamics of that. I mean, bottom line, my takeaway is just like that was super cool to see. Sabrina, she shot from the NBA line, but she did shoot with a WNBA ball. But she wanted to kind of even it out a little bit, which I thought was cool. And then the coolest part is that she came a few points away. The fact that she made it a fair fight, that's the coolest thing. And anyone who knows Sabrina Ionescu, who has seen her shoot the ball, that wasn't much of a surprise, right? I mean, but anyone who can make it a fair fight in a 3-point shootout against Steph Curry, no matter who you are, that's very impressive. Very impressive. So to me, just that alone, the fact that it was actually like, oh, wow, 26? Steph's got to beat that. Like, he can't just go out there and shoot. Like, he's going to have to go and beat that. And he did. He had to knock down the money ball, his last rack, to even win. So give me your take on the Steph Sabrina thing. But also, I know we're going to get into the Kenny Smith stuff because I watched it to listen back to Kenny Smith's rhetoric and reactions and stuff that people were kind of getting on him about, on the internet, women's basketball fans especially. But what was your kind of reaction as you were hearing what the stuff that Kenny Smith was saying about Sabrina after Steph finished after like she officially lost?
I didn't like it, honestly. And the reason why is because you start off with Kenny throughout the course of Sabrina's shooting. Kenny, in a way, was kind of seemed like he was rooting for Sabrina almost.
Yeah.
I mean,
it seemed like he was, for sure.
Very excited while Sabrina was shooting, and then not even like a beat after Steph is done. He immediately goes to shoot a shot from the WNBA line. It would have been better. Now, I understand the thought process. The thought process is look at what she did from the NBA line. Now, if she would have just shot from the WNBA line, she probably could have won. I understand the thought process, but I think, in a way, to me anyway, it felt kind of like a backhanded compliment when you factor in the fact that 4 guys, Dame, Trey, Kat, and Halliburton, in the men's 3-point contest, the regular one, they all shot 26 in the first round, and then Dame won with 26. So for me, like, I could have gone without that comment because Sabrina could have won the NBA 3-point contest with a score of 26. So it's a double-edged sword for me because while I understand what Kenny was saying, I understand his thought process behind it. I just think, his delivery in that moment with those words specifically, I think that is what riled up a lot of women's basketball fans, including myself, because I was riled up as well. But when you think back on what he was trying to say, I understand what he was trying to say. There's just a better way that he could have said it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Reggie pushing back on him made it worse too. Once Reggie threw out the word boundaries, he was like, "Don't put boundaries on this young woman." Like then it started to. I think that didn't help it either.
Yeah, it definitely snowballed after that.
Yeah, it did a little bit, and I think Kenny doubling down. When I listened to it, but I think he doubled down, and it just started to kind of make it a little bit worse. Because then he brought up like, "Oh, there's men's golf tees and there's women's golf tees for a reason, right?" So like he starts doubling down and saying like, "There's a reason why they shoot from that line. She should have shot from there, and she should, and just from a basketball perspective, I don't know. The only problem to me, the biggest problem to me, because like again, I listened to it and was still trying to find like where people were so upset because I heard him rooting for Sabrina, and I mainly heard him making a case that if she were closer, she probably would have won. But the only problem, Kenny, is that she could have won from the line she shot from. So it is kind of backhanded as I'm thinking and talking through it. It is kind of backhanded because you're implying that she couldn't have won when you were literally up close watching and seeing how close she came to winning already from the line. So I don't know. I kind of see it both ways. Oh wow. What's the blackout situation?
Terms tweaking things.
Oh, okay. All
You know,
right.
being
I didn't
stupid.
know. I didn't know if the power went out, if aliens are coming. Like, oh man.
Terms tweaking things because
I thought the Caitlin Clark Warriors, sickos were coming to shut down our stream or something.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I think again, like for me, so this is my thing, and this is the point I made on Stuff About Sports last night, and I'll just make it again here. NBA All-Star Weekend in general has been on decline the past couple of years. The NBA in general, with viewership in general, has been on decline, but especially All-Star Weekend, especially All-Star Saturday night, because there's no excitement with the dunk contest anymore. There's no excitement with the three-point contest anymore. But Martin, the most watched 15 minutes of All-Star Saturday night, it wasn't the skills challenge, it wasn't the dunk contest, it wasn't the three-point contest. It was Steph versus Sabrina. Yeah. 5.4 million people tuned in to watch Steph versus Sabrina. Whether it was WNBA fans or Sabrina fans wanting to see her win, whether it was just casual fans just wanting to tune in, or whether it was, as we all know, trolls just pulling up to see if Sabrina loses. So to me, when I look at it, as I said last night, this should have been a win-win. This should have been a win for NBA All-Star Saturday night, which it was, because now you've introduced a new thing to All-Star Weekend that they're obviously going to compound upon next year, whether it's we've always talked about, people are talking about Steph and Clay versus Caitlin and Sabrina. I know you mentioned, Steph and Sabrina versus Dame and Caitlin, right? Like there's a lot of different, right? So there's a new component we're going to tune into. You have obviously more eyes on the WNBA in a sense because you have a WNBA player showing up. But then most importantly, it's more excitement for it should have been a win-win. And I think, again, understanding what Kenny was trying to say, I just think if he would have chosen better words, and I think if Reggie Miller wouldn't have taken the knife and dubbed a little bit more by kind of talking about boundaries and men's golf tees and women's golf tees, I don't think people would have been upset about it. But I thought it was great. I loved it. I was rooting for Sabrina to win. And she was looking like she was going to win until Steph had that money ball rack, like you mentioned on that last rack, and he just knocked him down.
Yeah. The golf tees thing that Kenny said was just weird, and I felt like he was doubling down on trying to make his point that like there's a reason why I'm saying she should shoot from the women's line. Think about it this way, and like this is why I did the video I did, because there should be a win-win, but there's always going to be a side who, no matter who wins or loses or how it looks or whatever, there was always going to be people complaining about something. If Sabrina shot from the women's line and she won, people would have complained that she's shooting from a shorter line anyway. That would have been a built-in excuse for people if she would have won. So while again, I do appreciate Kenny Smith wanting to advocate for her being in a situation where she can win, she was close enough to winning anyway. So I don't think it was like the worst comment in the world. I thought it was way worse when I saw how people were reacting to it. When I went to listen, I thought I was going to hear something way worse, but yeah, you really didn't even have to say it like that, because she was close enough to winning anyway. That, like, I get you're rooting for her, but she almost won anyway. So don't just add that in to be like, oh, if this happened, she would have won. No, that doesn't hold. It actually doesn't hold.
And of course, we know if Sabrina would have won from the NBA line, they would have said, well, Steph paid her to win anyway. So that's how that goes.
Exactly. No one's ever satisfied. Wins are very rare in this life, Dwayne Marcus, especially not in professional sports. We're gonna get into some Angel Reese talk, I believe, and let's play a clip from one of our last episodes where we talked a little bit about Angel Reese. Everybody knows that Angel is probably the most unique case from a personality.
100%. I mean, you've said she's a case study.
She's going to be a case study in 5 to 10 years, just based on her popularity and everything that's happened just this year since she's won the national championship. From this to Cardi B video to everything, like her last 6 months is going to be a case study. Right. So Angel Reese, LSU star. We've talked about a good amount on this show for different reasons. WNBA draft potential, obviously what she's been doing at LSU, winning the national championship and so forth, and the things she's doing on and off the floor. She was in a cover for Women's Health magazine, and a quote came out from that where she talked about a lot of things, and kind of her relationship with Caitlin Clark came up. And she brought up and made reference to Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. And she referenced that kind of in a comparison sense, just in terms of, kind of what they did for the NBA and for the game, at the time, where they were rivals, obviously, but also very good friends. And anyone who looks into it and pays attention, does a little research, obviously sees that, Caitlin and Angel don't have some kind of real life rivalry. They're actually friends. They've been playing against each other for a long time. They're fans of each other. They compliment each other every chance they can get. And what Angel also said in there was that she feels like they're both, her and Caitlin are very happy with what's been going on, with the women's game as a result of their historic national championship matchup last season. So, Marcus, you had some thoughts on this. So we talked about it a little bit already, but what do you think about Angel's comments and kind of that kind of comparison to the Magic and Bird thing?
I think if we're looking at it from a marketability and like bringing eyes onto the product standpoint, I agree with Angel 100% in the sentiment. What a lot of women's basketball haters actually conveniently don't like to admit is there was a time when the NBA was not this big box office attraction, right? And the reason why Magic and Bird were so influential, the reason why Magic and Bird are such, excuse me, are such, like, when you tell the story of basketball, you cannot tell the story of basketball without Magic and Bird, is because they competed against each other in college. They then get drafted to the Lakers and the Celtics, who are the storied franchises of the NBA. And then, of course, they cross paths at least one or two times, I think. Martin, you correct me wrong, but they cross paths at least once in the NBA Finals, playing for the Lakers and the Celtics. So, and we call the 80s the golden era of basketball because there were so many people who loved Magic and followed Magic to the NBA. There's so many people who loved Bird and followed Bird to the NBA. And their rivalry, their friendship, and their battles helped bring more eyes to the NBA at the time. Angel and Caitlin, right now, very similar situation. We've talked a lot about, as you saw in the clip, Angel Reese's marketability. We know that Caitlin Clark Caitlin Clark is the biggest box office attraction there is in women's basketball right now. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Right. Whether you love her, whether you hate her, whether you're just a fan of her because she shoots deep threes, or whether you're just a fan of her because she's really good at basketball, Caitlin Clark's the biggest box office attraction in basketball right now for women. Angel Reese, just last season, the biggest box office attraction in basketball. From the Vis to winning the national championship, she comes home, she gets a court named after her in Baltimore. She's in Cardi B music videos. She's getting endorsements. She's the first NIL athlete signed by Shaq signed by Reebok, in the Shaq AI era, right? Like box office. And so from a bringing eyes to the product standpoint, Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark are this generation's Magic and Bird. From a talent standpoint, though, they're not. Because Angel Reese still has room for improvement in a way that, from a talent standpoint, I wouldn't be comfortable making this comparison, which is a point that when we were doing our pre-show, we were putting together, that's something that you emphasized, because I was just kind of looking at it from strictly the marketability standpoint. And you were saying, yeah, that's true, but we can't ignore the on-the-court talent that Magic and Bird was compared to Angel and Caitlin.
Yeah, because they're inextricably linked. That's what I always talk about with Angel, is that her talent, her product on the floor, which, by the way, she looks really good lately. I don't know who's been paying attention to Angel Reese lately, but she's playing
doubles in 58 games this year.
She is playing more dominant, even more poised, and just like she just looks really, really good right now. She's playing really great basketball. Like if you want to see Angel Reese better than what I feel like we're watching her, do better things and get better right before our eyes. But Yeah, and I wouldn't accuse Angel of like proclaiming herself as Magic Johnson. I think you're spot on. Like, it's about the marketability. It's about, again, that kind of built-in rivalry that has naturally happened, even though they're good friends. Let's just put it out there. There is the black-white thing, right? One's in Iowa, one's in Louisiana. I mean, there's also that. So it's like the contrast, right? Coming from two different worlds. That was a very important backdrop and theme to the Magic and Larry thing. So again, I'm not accusing Angel of like, calling her the next Magic Johnson in that sense. I think you're spot on with that. And that's the right way to think about it. It's just that the marketability and all of that side of things is linked to your talent and your product on the court. So what I said to you was Angel and Caitlin are the Magic and Larry of women's college basketball.
Sure.
They've got that of women's college basketball.
Yeah.
What happens in the WNBA is going to be a totally different conversation. You brought up a great point about the Lakers Celtics thing. So automatically they're pit against each other in that, rivalry, East Coast, West Coast thing. So we don't know where Angel and Caitlin are going yet in the WNBA. If their two franchises will be natural rivals, we don't know if their rivalry will naturally carry over to the WNBA, but they'll always be linked. So it does give me that Magic Larry thing because of that, because of the you can't see me, because of just the drama of that national championship game. They will always be linked. And we obviously hope that like their popularity and stuff can translate into the WNBA. And that's yet to be seen. But the WNBA is going to be a totally different thing. I'm excited to see. I can't wait to see how things translate and how things are different or similar. They're going to have their own journeys and battles, obviously, but I think they're the Magic and Bird of women's college basketball. I think they've changed things forever in that sense.
And I think that's a very important distinction that you're making, because Magic and Bird weren't just transcendent for men's college basketball. They were transcendent for basketball.
Yeah.
Until Angel and Caitlin get to that next level, like you're saying, and we see if that talent and that marketability transfers, we can't say they're the Magic and Bird of women's basketball, but they are absolutely, without a doubt, the Magic and Bird of women's college basketball. Two of the biggest stars we've ever seen in the history of women's college basketball, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I'll say this lastly, too, on Angel, because part of what makes her special as a hybrid post, I'll probably give you, she's probably a hybrid post. Like, she pushes the ball, her passing and her vision is underrated. And so we talk about Magic Johnson, like she can be kind of that point forward, point center kind of player. Again, not comparing her to Magic, but her versatility, the ability to kind of be a guard and see things and make certain passes. The more we see her versatility just improve and blossom, the more special she will continue to be. And of course, we want to see how special she can be, at the next level in the WNBA. She's obviously special right now in the college game, but some of the things she's doing, man, I like I said before, I feel like I keep seeing her get better and better, stronger, smarter. She still has that competitive edge. Like you don't see any sense of drop off from, national championship hangover or nothing like that. She just battles, man. She competes. Like and again, I think she's continuing to put things together. Like every time I watch her, honestly, I'm a little more impressed because like her length, her hands, her quickness, her feet, like it's really impressive, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Very impressive.
We are going to get into our first segment that we've done so far on this show. We've talked about it amongst ourselves, but we wanted to bring it to the show and highlight some young queens, some women's basketball players out there. So we're going to use this segment on the show called our Queen of the Week for Dwayne Marcus and I to highlight any queen, young queen, old queen, seasoned saint queen, upcoming queen, any women's basketball player or women's basketball influence, but somebody who's doing their thing in the women's game. We want to try to focus on players and highlight players that we see out there doing their thing and kind of shout them out right here on the show. So Dwayne Marcus, let me get yours first, man. Who's your queen of the week?
My queen of the week is simple. It's Lauren Taylor. Lauren Taylor is a 5'11" 4, I believe she plays the 4/5. 44 rebounds in a game last week, the most ever across all divisions in women's college basketball. She also had 34 points in that game. Like we're talking like 2K my career type numbers in that game. She plays really good basketball. I sat down. I actually watched. I didn't watch the full game, but I caught a couple clips of that game. She was obviously very board dominant in that game.
Were they mostly all out of offensive rebounds, or?
I don't think they were all offensive rebounds. I think it was a healthy split between the two. I didn't really.
Okay.
The one thing I didn't do that I should have done is I should have sat down and kind of like counted them back and forth. But bro, like 44 boards, like I do that on 2K. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not just 44 boards. Like she out rebounded the entire team, the opposing team. She had more rebounds by herself than the entire other team she was playing against. That's exceptional. I've never seen anything like that. Right? We saw Caitlin Clark obviously set the record for most points ever in a career, but honestly, I'm gonna be honest. 44 boards in a single game, much more impressive to me than setting an all-time career record for points. Not that Caitlin's record doesn't matter, but I really, really love that. And that's exciting. She plays for Francis Mason, I believe is what the school is called. Not a lot of people know about the school, bro, but she's really good. She's really good at that.
13 years old. Did I hear that? Did you say an age on her or?
No, I didn't put an age on her. No,
okay. Do you know her, or what is she in college? What school is it?
She's in college. She's in college.
Okay.
So
Tell me this. D2 school. Do I have that right?
Yes, D2. My mommy's delivering tea. Sorry, you guys.
Oh, yeah, no. The tea is important. The tea is hot. You got to get the tea while it's hot.
Tea is hot. But yeah, no, that's super impressive, bro. 44 boards, 34 points as well. That's pretty good. It's pretty
Nothing
good.
Nothing to sneeze at, man. Any girl who's getting over 40 boards, somebody ought to be looking at her today. I mean, yeah, that's different. That's different. I have a young queen of the week out of Houston, Texas, by the name of Mackenzie Jackson. Her nickname is the Ansa. I came across her on Instagram. This young lady had her first middle school game recently. She's 13 years old, class of 2029. She's 13 and she's 5'11". She had her first middle school game recently and scored 53 points off the bench. Now, let me tell you what I see with this young lady. Obviously, like I said, she's 5'11" at 13, so she's tall. She's long. She has great length on her. I see great strides. She's pretty raw, but I mean, I see great movement. I see a competitive edge. I see her finishing off either feet. I see some really interesting things that has me wanting to keep an eye on her. So I've already followed her from our stuff. I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on her and keeping in touch with her. But yeah, Mackenzie Jackson, the answer, she is looking like a rare and raw prospect out here. 13 years old, class of 2029, 5'11", long, raw, active, long strides, gets downhill. Really looking forward to keeping up with this young queen. So those are our queens of the week.
Lauren Taylor, by the way, goes to Francis Marion, not Francis Mason. I wrote down the wrong name. It's Francis Marion, not Francis Mason.
Got it. Francis Marion. Where's that located?
I wish I could tell you.
One extra little search will give us the answer, Marcus.
No, you're absolutely right. I just didn't. South Carolina.
Yeah, I need to tell us where she's at.
Florence, South Carolina.
Okay, South Carolina represent.
Hey man, we love South Carolina on this side.
That's right, we absolutely do. My mother's from South Carolina. Don't ever forget it. One of our great guests, Miss Lauren Dreer, Big love, fresh out of South Carolina, and we're talking about South Carolina in a little bit on the show, aren't we? That's right, the number one undefeated dominant power right now.
We're going all the way.
Oh, it certainly looks like it. It absolutely looks like it. I watched that Georgia game the other day, and we're gonna talk about some things here in a little bit. Let's cut to a break real quick before we come back, and we'll touch on quickly the Brittney Griner jersey retirement at Baylor University.
Yeah, man.
you don't really understand how massive and how physically dominant BG is until you give BG a handshake and a hug. Right? You see what I'm saying? BG eclipsed me. 6'9", the touch, the shooting touch.
Yeah.
Walked us down to the block when we played. We were the Sky. We played Phoenix. BG's first game back in Phoenix. That was our game. Right. And boy, thank God, like Elizabeth Williams deflected a ball at the end because we couldn't stop. Yo, man, like,
she was getting right to it. I remember watching the first game thinking like, yo,
just walks you right to the block. Like walks you there. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, that was last week's show with our guy Chaz Franklin, the director of player development for the Chicago Sky. He gave us a lot of great gems, a lot of good stories from inside the W. And he mentioned when he first met BG and just like her physical presence, and obviously gave her some praise just in terms of her game. But yeah, Dwayne Marcus, anything? I know you had some thoughts or just maybe some stats or anything to share from Brittney Griner, the Baylor career, any thoughts on just her greatness as she got a much deserved jersey retirement.
Brittney Griner was the first female I saw dunk a basketball. I don't remember the year. I believe it was their undefeated championship season. They went 40-0. But I was watching basketball. I was like, me, I'm a child. I'm a child. So I was even more of a child then. I was like watching. Brittney Griner is the first woman that got me like, this is cool. So I didn't know women. I was like maybe like 6. I don't think it was that long ago, but probably was. I was like 6, 7 years old probably when this was going on. So like Brittney Griner dunking a basketball, 6, 7 years old. That's crazy to me. But no, excuse me. Brittney Griner, exceptional basketball player. And we put a post about this a couple days ago before her jersey was retired. You talk about an all-time great basketball player, especially in college. Single season records for blocks per game, field goal percentage, free throws made, points per game, and rebounds for Baylor. And we're talking about a program that's had a lot of bigs come through there since Brittney Griner's left. Those records still stand. We're talking about total, like the dominance that Brittney Griner displayed at Baylor, unbelievable. We're talking about the best player on a 40-0 national championship basketball team, something that only 8 teams in history have ever done. More specifically, 2 teams not named Connecticut have ever done that. Baylor, and I believe, if I check my notes, Texas back in 1986. So she's unbelievable, bro. And I love BG. Like, I think BG's the first women's basketball player I saw that was like, wow, women's basketball is cool. And BG's just great. Like, I have never met her, but from a personality standpoint, she's exceptional. She's an amazing basketball player. You love to watch her play basketball. And like you said, bro, well-deserved. Well-deserved jersey retirement. There are only 6 other players in Baylor's women's basketball history have their jersey retired. Melissa Jones, Nina Davis, Susie Snyder, Eppers, Shelia Lambert, Sophia Young, and her former teammate Odyssey Sims are the only other players in Baylor women's basketball history to have their jersey retired. Brittney Griner is the 7th, and it's well-deserved. And eventually, when it's all said and done, the WBA, she'll have her jersey hanging up in the rafters for Phoenix as well.
Yeah, for sure. She's a champion. She's a Olympic gold medalist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I would assume a multi-time Olympic gold medalist, considering how many Olympic gold medals the Team US. I think they're going for 8 this year, actually. So she's got.
Yeah, the women don't play games. The women have definitely they don't miss a beat. They've been dominant. They don't have off years. But yeah, the main thing I've appreciated over time with BG is how she's been able to establish such a well-rounded legacy as an elite post player. Not just the woman that most people saw dunk for the first time. It's not like she's out there drop step dunking every game anyway. So she really had to develop not that she had to, but I appreciated the fact that she did develop a real basketball identity outside of just being a tall chick who could dunk the ball. Like, she developed an incredible shooting touch, a jump hook that is just unstoppable. I mean, her offensive game has really just blossomed and flourished. That's one of my favorite things about BG, and I'm glad that she got to experience this kind of thing. Obviously we just got her back from that nonsense in Russia, last season, and it was just great to have her back, and it's great to see her be celebrated, because she is one of the great bigs of all time, if not the greatest center, of all time up to this point. So that's what I've always appreciated about BG.
Where does BG fall for you? Like, when you think about greatest college players of all time, where is she on that list?
Greatest college player, she might fall top 10. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking she may have a case for top 10. Shaq did put out his opinion, as he's known to do. And it makes me think about that Cheryl Swoops thing, man. We've got I'm still going through warfare daily with people on our Cheryl Swoops segment, who just people don't seem to understand why we didn't spend 20 minutes just scathing and attacking Cheryl Swoops for not knowing how old Caitlin Clark is, but that's neither here nor there. But when a legend, and you said this actually in the second on Cheryl Swoops, when a legend gives their take on something, it's worth it to listen. Doesn't mean you have to agree, doesn't mean it's always right. But it's worth it to give it a listen. Shaq, being, member of the media, he puts out plenty of opinions about what he thinks. And of course, Shaq is a credible source out here. But it's a good talking point. It's good. It's interesting to think about. And we've talked about it before. Plenty of people are good with saying Caitlin Clark is the GOAT of women's basketball, not just college, just women's basketball already today. Now, people seem to be fine just going there already. But where are you? What's your thinking, Mr. GOAT Talk with Marcus podcast? As the official authority on all GOAT conversations, what's your thoughts on the GOAT of women's college basketball?
I don't know if I'm the official authority on all things GOAT. Well, I have two answers. There's the greatest women's college basketball player I've ever seen, and then there's the greatest women's basketball player, college women's basketball player of all time. I think it's safe to say that the greatest college women's basketball player of all time is Maya Moore. What she did in her collegiate career is exceptional. For me, the greatest women's college basketball player that I've seen is Brianna Stewart. I grew up when I thought about women's college basketball, the name and the team that was always like synonymous for me with that was UConn. They have 2 undefeated championship seasons in Brianna Stewart's tenure there. She's a 3-time player of the year, 4-time national champion, obviously, was an all-tournament team all 4 times, was the tournament player of the year all 4 times, right? Like, she's a 3-time Naismith Award winner. She was a Big East all-freshman, 2-time Wooden Award winner. Like, the list goes on and on and on. Like, Brianna Stewart, to me, in my very limited, compared to Martin Sori's in my very limited women's basketball exposure, it's Brianna Stewart. Like, Stewie's the GOAT of college women's basketball in my perspective, in my paradigm of like what I know, right? I would love to. I mean, here's the thing too. Like, if you're gonna put Caitlin Clark in that conversation, like, there's a couple things she's missing.
She got to get a natty, bro.
All, she has to win a national championship.
I'm shocked that someone of Shaquille O'Neal's status, who understands the value of the ring,
he's Chuck. Every chance he gets,
every chance he gets about you need the ring. I'm a little surprised that he would just give her that. I mean, it's high praise, and it clearly speaks to how highly he thinks of her, right? But absolutely, I'm a little surprised that he went all the way to GOAT without her having a natty yet. I'm a little surprised by that.
No, I'm 100% surprised by it as well. But I just like, again, like, for me, when I think about, because this is also, I don't want to make you feel old, but I mean, not that you're old. I don't want to make anyone else feel old. But like, when Brianna Stewart was kind of like, when she was in college, we're talking 2013. So I was in 7th grade, 2016. I was wrapping up 10th grade. So like, those 4 was the big thing at school was like, we did March Madness tournaments all the time. We made a bracket for the men, we had a bracket for the women. I always had UConn winning my bracket because that's all I knew, man. That's all I knew. And again, we're talking about 2 undefeated championship seasons in that 4-year stretch. They lost 5 games in 4 years. 5 games in 4 years. In her freshman year, they were 35-4. Her sophomore year, 40-0. Junior year, 38-1. Senior year, 38-0. I don't know. In my life, I haven't experienced anything greater than that. I really haven't experienced anything. Then when you add on the accolades, I'm a young bull. That's all I got. Brianna Stewart's the GOAT of college women's basketball, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think Maya Moore would be my GOAT because I think she's the best that I saw in college. I think she's the best college player I probably saw, and she has the accolades and the accomplishments to go with it for sure. And I think that I've never seen anything like Caitlin, and I wouldn't put it past anyone to say that Caitlin's the best they've ever seen. Again, I'm a little surprised by the GOAT thing. To me, GOAT should be reserved for
you got to have a championship.
You got the champions, and I'm a little surprised. Again, I think it just speaks to I think Shaq may be a little prisoner of the moment. He maybe fell to it, but and it's understandable because look, I was at Rutgers when Iowa came to town this season. I saw the line out. I've been going to Rutgers women's games since I was a child. I've never seen people lined up outside of what used to be the rack. Now it's Jersey Mike's Arena. I've never seen that kind of turnout for a game there. And it was for Caitlin Clark. It wasn't for Iowa. Certainly wasn't for Rutgers. It was for I saw it I was there physically. I saw it with my own eyes. So I get it when people see what's going on and the craze and the fanfare and the attention. And there's a reason for it. It's because she's spectacular. I mean, her game is
100%.
We've never seen anything like her. The GOAT thing, I'm a little surprised. I think she got Shaq a little mesmerized here because he's going with this supreme talent and attention and everything over what's supposed to be the main thing, which is winning something first before you become a GOAT.
Yeah. I mean, and again, when you think about the names that are on that list, on that short list, long list, whatever, they all have championships, right?
It's a mandatory. I mean, it's a prerequisite, I thought, for being a GOAT.
If you're going to be a GOAT of anything, you got to have some titles. You know what I mean? We don't call Tiger Woods the GOAT of golf because of the red shirt. No, he's got a lot of championships under his belt. You know what I mean? Shaq, every chance you get, you bully Chuck about not having a ring. I just feel like coming from you, we should recognize that Caitlin Clark doesn't have a ring. If she gets a ring this season, is she going to be the GOAT? No. Would I feel different about you saying that? No. But at least you have a ring. You know what I mean? At least you have a ring. You don't have a ring, you're not the GOAT of anything. I don't.
Right. Yeah.
I
don't know.
Well, you might be the greatest to never win a ring, but that's not the GOAT though. That's a different conversation.
That's a different conversation, individual GOAT or whatever. Like you said, you could say the best you've ever seen. I'm surprised we couldn't find some different language for that. I thought GOAT was reserved for only winners. Thought that was a
prerequisite. Absolutely.
That's what I thought. Let's cut to a quick clip of head coach Dawn Staley at South Carolina, #1 undefeated. We're going to come back and chop it up a little bit about the Gamecocks and their domination this season.
I'm not a screamer, contrary to what y'all believe. I'm not a screamer. I mean, there are just simple things to fix what was going on. I mean, we turned the ball over. We couldn't get any stops. We need to do a better job sharing the basketball. The ball gets stuck. I think we take bad shots, rush shots, and we're in the process of learning or relearning, just taking the best shot on the floor versus taking contested shots. And then we're just right in the middle of making that decision, and it's really is complicating our offense.
Yeah, so I watched that Georgia game the other day, which that was Dawn after that game, talking, and it was It was a game like games they've had recently where they started out slow. They were down in the first half. I just thought they just didn't really come out really ready to play. Georgia came out super ready to play. Their big girl, I forget her name skips my mind right now, but she was just killing. She was going at them. They were actually killing them with high-low basketball. Like they were out South Carolina. They were doing South Carolina basketball on South Carolina. But they picked it up in the second half. But and that's what they've been doing lately, you know, and that's something it's kind of what I want to talk about, you know. I mean, and this is the thing when you're number one, when you're undefeated, you get everyone's best shot, of course. But it's also interesting watching South Carolina right now because and that clip was really important. Just the things Dawn was talking about with their offense, because like to me, their offense is the story this season. It's their 3-point shoot, and it starts with the 3-point shooting. You know how I couldn't find the stat that I tweeted like a month ago or something, but I've been tracking their 3-point attempts up to this point in the season, and it's way more than like the last 5 seasons, like in terms of their 3-point attempts. Like no one can tell me they're not a totally different team shooting the 3 ball. Just between Tahina Pow, Bree Hall, like they're just more of a 3-point shooting team than we've seen in years past. That seems perfectly obvious to me. But I feel like Dawn has a good problem on her hands in that, like, you watch this team right now, while they may not be advertised or presented as like a super team, like a super talented team, you know, like in LSU, they got Haley Van Lith to transfer in, right? They got Anissa Morrow to transfer in. They already have Angel Flaugier, big names, national champions. They're kind of promoted as like this, you know, super talented team. South Carolina, obviously, very talented players, but just in terms of how they're presented, right? But I will say South Carolina, when you watch them, it is becoming a little more of like, we're relying on our talent now. Like I'm used to, like, for me, South Carolina is so much like, you know, system, not to say they're robots or anything, but like it's, you know, get it inside, high-low basketball, good passing, patience, poise system, right? Now that they have more 3-point shooting, they're a little more high octane, little more talent, even on the perimeter. Like Pow, she's not just a 3-point shooter. She goes off the dribble, side to side. She's making plays. Like she's been showing me some things as even an off the bounce guard. We know what Mylasia Wiley can do off the bench. I mean, she's their secret weapon. She's third in scoring, but she's like 7th or 8th in minutes per game. So she only has limited time to make an impact. But when she's out there, you see like Camila Cardoso is their leading scorer, but Mylasia Wiley is their most talented player. I don't know. I just look at them and I'm like, for maybe the first time, I feel like the things Dawn is speaking to, I feel like it's almost a good problem to have that they have right now that they've been figuring out, and that, we are really talented right now. Like Pow needs shots. Like, yeah, we have our system. We're going inside to Camilla. We're going inside to Ashlyn Watkins. Like, we're looking for our high-low sets to create easy baskets in the paint. Like, we're still running our stuff. But you heard Dawn talk about it some. It's like you have shot creators now. Bree Hall can get her shot off. She's not just a spot up shooter. Like, she's a dynamic. She can make things happen off the bounce. Said the same thing about Pow. We know what Mylasia Wiley can do. So, and ultimately, really my takeaway is that, like, this is such a testament to Dawn, because we're seeing over and over, like, her system of sacrifice works. Ashlyn Watkins, Mylasia Wiley, they could be averaging 18 to 20 on other teams, other programs, you know. Like, this is why South Carolina looks so dominant right now, because their talent is probably the most potent it's been, like, across the board from perimeter to inside. And they're still true to their nature and their system and their foundation. But I just think it's a good problem to have right now. Like, I see a team that is more dynamic with shot creators, 3-point shooting. And I think Dawn is like, we're watching her like get used to it and adjust and adapt, like, in real time. We're watching her do it. As I watch this team, I'm like, I don't know. It's interesting because that's what, I mean, they were undefeated last year. They went down to the best player in the country. You know, I want to make I'm curious if their identity, if they stick true to the identity that's gonna keep them successful. Right now, they look the best because again, they have the combination of both. And that's my big take is like for the first time, I feel like I see a combination of high level talent with just, discipline, the poise, playing inside, playing, like just playing Dawn Staley basketball. But this team talent wise, top to bottom, is the most dynamic I've seen. And that's a really obviously good problem to have.
I'm so glad you brought in some in-depth analysis because for the first time on this show, I don't have any in-depth analysis. I'm fully putting on my South Carolina hat right now. I don't care about none of that, bro. I really don't. I don't care about any of that because I am witnessing greatness, bro. I get to watch the South Carolina Gamecocks be great. They're undefeated. Next 4 games are not in this order, but Alabama, I think, is next, and then I think Kentucky. I know we finished with Tennessee. Not sure that third team. But listen, it's dogs up and down this roster, if you ask me. Chloe Kitts, dog. Camila Cardoza, dog. Heading to the draft this year. Bree Hall, dog. Raven Johnson, dog. Tahina Pow, dog. Malaysia Fawali, you talked about it. Dog. Ashley Watkins. Like, this roster.
Who's their best player to you? Who's their best player to you?
That's an interesting question because
that's why I know it is. I know you have to tell me that. I know my questions are interesting. Tell me your answer. Don't delay. Tell me your answer.
I'm gonna
make you give analysis. You think you're gonna just sit back and be a fan? No, I'm gonna make you think. I'm gonna make you talk basketball.
I've been watching a lot of Scandal, so I'm feeling pretty politician right now.
Go ahead.
I would say that their best player it's Camila Cardoza for a couple of reasons. She is, as a big, there are not many teams in the country whose big is like the heart and soul of the team and like the motor, right? You think about UCLA with Lauren Betts. You think obviously about Stanford with Cameron Brink. You think obviously about LSU. You think about Ohio State. And of course you have South Carolina. The reason why I think that Camila is their best player is to the point that you mentioned about their 3-point shooting. I think a lot of times we see teams overcompensate defensively on the perimeter to keep Tahina and to keep Raven and Bree and the shooters and the shot creators from getting theirs off. And that is when we see a lot of the times Camila have those unexpected big games, right? And it's not unexpected because she's not on that level from a talent standpoint, because she is. It's unexpected because when you think about this team this year compared to past years, this team was all about the in and out. It was all about the 2-man game. It was all about feeding the post. South Carolina still does that, but they've also developed a 3-point shooting element, something that we haven't really seen before, something that we haven't really seen a Dawn Staley coached offense lean into in South Carolina. And so when you have Raven Johnson, when you have Bree Hall, when you have Tahina Pow, who, by the way, against Georgia, she was 5 of 12. 11 of her shots were from 3. She took 1 non-3-pointer. She was 5 of 12. She was 5. Like that's what
they played zone most of the game.
So when you have someone like Camila Cardoza, who in a way gets to hide in this offense because of how effective the shooters are, I think that makes her the best player on the team. Now, the downside to that is when the shooters aren't shooting, when they're not hitting at the clip that they are used to hitting or hitting at the clip they should be hitting, that does put a little bit more pressure on Camila.
Sure.
To go get hers.
Yeah, right.
Like and be that force, right? When you think about like Aaliyah Boston and Asia Wilson, for example, there were no concerns about really them going and getting theirs and being that force because that's how the team was built, right? The team was built for them to go get theirs and go be that force. Camila, beautifully, luckily for her, doesn't have to deal with that because Dawn has adjusted the way that this offense works. And so that's really those are the games that make me nervous when the shots aren't falling, because Camilla typically gets in her rhythm when the shots are falling. Camilla gets in her rhythm when she's able to hit those easy shots down low that the defense is slipping on because they're closing out hard at the 3-point line. When those shots aren't falling, though, it takes a little bit longer to get into that rhythm. So it puts more pressure on her, and also, of course, puts more pressure on the shooters. And so, like in the Georgia game, they got off to a slow start, like you mentioned. And when I sat down and I rewatched that game, I was like, this is what concerns me. But I think from a roster standpoint, when you talk about the talent on the roster, and I don't just mean this, like I confidently can say, unless there's just a complete breakdown in South Carolina on one of these games in March, I don't think there's a team that can beat them. LSU
LSU played them better than I've seen anyone play them, and Angel Reese fouled out late, and that was a game LSU for much of that game looked like a better team. Even I think LSU can play with them. There aren't many teams that can even play with them. I think LSU is the only team that can play with them. Really,
they
might be. I think UCLA could probably play with them.
That's true. We haven't seen them against UCLA this season, which I think when they do match up, because they're going to match up eventually, I do think that's going to be an interesting game.
Well, I mean, they don't have to, but they could. But yeah, I mean, I think UCLA could play with them. But and you make good point. Like what you said, that's why I brought this up, and I'm not criticizing. This is just me being the basketball person I am, having basketball observation when I watch games. And again, it's a compliment to them, what I'm saying, but it's also the gift and the curse of being not just number one undefeated where you have the target on your back. That's obvious. It's the fact that they're so talented. And again, that's a good problem to have. But when I look, and I said it from the first game against Notre Dame, when they beat the brakes off Notre Dame, I'm like, look, Dawn retooled. The front line is deeper than ever. They bring Ashlyn Watkins, Sanaya Fagan off the bench. Those are two highly productive, serviceable post players behind Chloe Kitts and Camilla.
Yeah.
Like, so again, good problem to have. But I asked you that question, who's their best player? Because if we do see South Carolina get hung up at times, which they've been hung up, they've had slow starts in recent games, right? Whatever. But and when it matters, when it comes down to it, it's a good problem to have. But right now you have different players. And that's why I said it's a credit to Dawn and her, how she gets players to sacrifice, because you don't see or hear any players complain. You don't hear Mylasia Fulwiley complain about playing time or I want more shots or anything. You never hear anything like that coming out of South Carolina because they're winning. What are you going to complain about when you're undefeated? You would just look foolish, right? But still, you're like, you've gotten them to buy into that. And that's what makes this unit so great and so scary. I don't think they'll lose. I think they will win outright because they can win in different ways. If their shots aren't falling, I mean, Chloe Kitts is down there working, battling, doing the dirty work. You can try to force feed Camilla. She will get you buckets, right? You can still win the game inside. That's how they're built. If they can win the game from three, if they're hot and hitting from three, you can really forget about it. You still have Raven out there making plays in between. I'm just like, you're becoming a team that's really, really built on like your offensive production and your 3-point shooting, as opposed to what we've seen in years past. Like, bro, I looked it up. Asia Wilson was the only 20-point per game scorer for South Carolina in the last 5 to 8 years. I had to keep going back. I couldn't find one. In I think it was the 2020 season, 2019 or 2020. She averaged 22 a game. She's the only one. Zaya Cook, Aaliyah Boston were averaging 16. What age do you think I'm talking about?
In 2019, averaged 20 in South Carolina.
Yeah, 22 a game. It was either 2019 or 2020. I was looking at it earlier.
Asia was in Vegas in 2019, 2020.
Oh, what am I saying? Well, it's not 2009. That's not.
No, it's not 2009. It would be, I'll look it up.
2018 or 2019, 2018. Would it be 2018?
Are you talking about like her final season? Was it her last season?
Probably your senior year. Yeah. Put your phone away. It's either 2018 or 2019. Listen to what I'm saying. The only 20-point per game scorer in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
That's not an indictment. I'm giving you, this is a basketball conversation. We're talking basketball here. This is I don't know. Maybe it's just me. This is fascinating stuff to me.
Oh, that is fascinating. That's definitely fascinating.
I mean, dude, you don't have a go-to scorer. Do you know that that's not a good thing in basketball? Like, that's not good. It's not a good thing. That's why it's so impressive. I'm sharing my praise for what I'm seeing from this undefeated dominant basketball team. It's just fascinating to me. I don't know. I see some weaknesses. I see interesting things. I see, they're very dominant, but dude, like the fact that they have a weapon at every slot, it's a good problem to have. It's also a matter of you got to get the ball to the right person at the right time. So far, they're doing that really well. But you got to know who your best player. You got to know who your go-to player is. Don't come up against a team that knows who their go-to player is. You saw what happened last year. I tried to tell people, dude, don't just think because they're undefeated. Caitlin Clark is a giant killer. You don't go up against a player like that, a team like that, and not be worried just because you have the better team. When a team knows who their best player is, and that player is someone like that who doesn't care in the NCAA tournament, you're going up against a Jimmer Fredette, a Trey Burke, a JJ Redick, a Caitlin Clark, like these flamethrowers who will put you up, bruh. You better ask somebody. You better know what you're going up against, because those are the teams that are most. When a team knows who their best player is, it's very important, man. Very important. Sermon over. Sermon over. Trying to teach these people out here. Trying to teach these people, Marcus.
It was 2017, 2018 was the season.
Yeah, 2018, 2019, whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, hey man, look. I don't care who it is.
You better care. You better care, because if it,
the whole thing.
You better care, because if it's Iowa, you better not be acting like it's Jacksonville State or something.
Hey, be respectful to Jacksonville State, man. I don't even watch Jacksonville State basketball.
It's exactly my point. You better act like you know.
I watched when Liz was there because Liz is a friend. But I mean, yeah, I don't watch Jacksonville State basketball.
Exactly my point.
Yeah, brother. I think that's a button. I don't have anything else to add. Dude.
All right, man. Well, Marcus is done. He's sick. He's got to get back to his recovery. Thank you for watching this episode. Protect Our Queens. We'll be back next week with a maybe a guest, maybe not. Might be just the two of us, but we'll be back talking more women's basketball. Much love to the Give Us a Shot Network, Germ and the team and the family. Much love to you guys for the support and for everyone watching, tuned in. Be sure to follow Protect Our Queens on Instagram, where you can see more clips and more content from us and from the show at Protect Our Queens _ on Instagram. Thank you for joining us and for watching this show. Dwayne Marcus, myself, Martin Soares of Basketball Society. We appreciate you. If you don't like women's basketball, you should not be here. We have nothing for you. And if you don't like that, Marcus, what do we have for them?
2 words.
Only 2.
2 words.
Only the 2. Peace and love, y'all. Peace and love.